Home affordability here in Colorado. Look, here's the deal. Home affordability is one of those buzzwords that everybody's throwing around, not just at the local and state level, but at the national level as well. Home affordability seems to be on everybody's mind, and everybody seems to have a different take. So, for this month's market update, we're going to dive into home affordability and the stats here in Colorado Springs. Let's take a look. So let's take a look at single-family homes here in the Pikes Peak MLS, which does include Colorado Springs and the surrounding areas. So first and foremost, new homes, which means new listings that came on the market for the single-family, are up to 1677 in March from 1181 in February. Let's look year over year. That's up from 1337 in March of 2024. That's a 300 home jump. And that plays into some other stats here in just a second. So keep that in mind. So let's look at sales, right? So it makes sense that sales would be up if new listings are up. So we went from 730 in February to 1,059 in March. Now let's take a look year over year. Remember when we added 300 homes to the new listings year over year? Sales went from 941 in March of 2024 to 1059. That's only a 100 home jump. So we're really keeping pace in regards to sales versus new listings coming on the market. Average sales price, and here's where I really want to talk to y'all about what's going on in regards to home affordability. Everybody thinks it's a buyer's market, and in reality, it is. But that doesn't mean that home prices are necessarily going down. The average sales price actually went up from $544 in February to $562.5 in March. Let's look year over year. In March of 2024, just last year, the average sales price was $527.6. So we're up about $25,000 on the average sales price here in Colorado Springs. And that's a big deal because while, yeah, it's a buyer's market and how we're negotiating has changed, home values continue to go up. So when we talk about home affordability, it's really not going in the buyer's favor. I want to give you a little more insight than we often do here on the channel in regards to the different price points, how many homes are in those price points, and how many of those price points are seeing price reductions. Okay, so home affordability. And when I talk about home affordability, I think that a lot of times too many people tend to generalize home affordability and what all impacts that. As y'all are aware, we've talked about insurance costs and the rising insurance costs, that's impacting home affordability. Property taxes and the fact that those are going up, that's impacting home affordability. The rates going up, that's impacting so there's so many different reasons that home affordability is impacted. So what I wanted to do with this market update is give you a better idea for those of you thinking about coming to Colorado Springs and the surrounding area, exactly what it looks like. So maybe you're coming from somewhere where your average sales price is $200,000 to $300,000. Let's dig into what we actually have available for you in those price points. So anywhere between $0 and $200,000 from a single family standpoint, there are six. There are six of those homes available to you, and I'm guessing they're probably going to need some substantial work in order to make them habitable. So keep that in mind. But $200,000 to $300,000, that seems super reasonable for a lot of folks that we hear from. Hey, this is where I'm coming from, and a $300,000 house is great. Again, from East Central Illinois. Y'all know, I've told you before, I'm from East Central Illinois. $300,000 is a pretty great house. There are 31 single-family homes in the Pikes Peak MLS between $200,000 and $300,000. 31. That's it, right? And that's still well below that average sales price of $562.5. So anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000, still a really great price point for a lot of people, but there's only 221 available. That's really not that much inventory, right? So let's take a look at this. Between $400,000 and $500,000, there's 445. Between $500,000 and $600,000, there's 369. And then between $600,000 and $800,000, there's 427. So that spot between $400,000 and $800,000, that's where a majority of the inventory is. And it stands to reason because that's where most homes are going to land. Most of the homes in the Colorado Springs area are between $400,000 and $800,000. Now, yes, we go above that, and clearly we go below that. But the point is, when we talk about home affordability, in order to get an average priced home of $562.5 here in Colorado Springs, you need to factor that in when you're looking at buying in the area. Now, before we go any further, I don't want to discourage you from buying because, as I said, it's still very much a buyer's market. However, what we're seeing is the buyers are not negotiating on price quite as much as they are on concessions and other things like that. So buyers are coming in and they are able to negotiate concessions and other things like that. But for the most part, prices are staying right where they are. And what I mean by that is, let's take a look at that $400,000 to $800,000 price point we were just talking about. That's where most of the inventory is here in the Pikes Peak MLS. Completely understood. Of all of those listings, only 30% have had reductions. And I say only because so many people are like, oh, I've had the price reduction. I've had a price reduction. And it's really not as rampant as a lot of people would lead you to believe. It's only 1/3 of the homes that have a price reduction. But more important than that, even when they have a home price reduction, it's only 2 to 3%. It depends on the price point, of course. It depends on the home. I understand that. But when you look at the numbers, only 1/3 of the homes have price reductions, right? And of those 1/3, it's only a 2 to 3% reduction. So it's not huge. So generally, most of the buyer's market that we're seeing is in concessions, whether that be agent compensation, whether that be closing costs, whether that be whatever that looks like. There's a ton of different concessions that we can talk about, but that's important to keep in mind as we talk about a buyer's market and everything else, and that should give you a pretty good idea of what to look for as you move to the Colorado Springs area. The other thing that I want to bring up, days on market. If you're thinking about listing your home, right, or even on the buyer side, days on market is at 62. So that's right, we're over 2 months days on market. And the reason that that matters, buyers, you have time to take a look. Now, I don't want to mislead you. I want you to understand some homes are going to go on the market and they're going to go within that first week. I totally get that. But that means that some are going to go even longer than that, 2 months. So 2 things. Sellers, if you're thinking about selling, understand what the market looks like right now. It's going to be a waiting process. You're going to have to be patient. And that's important because this is nothing at all like it was 5 years ago when there were fire sales, right? We'd put a sign in the yard, 30 days later we came, we took it out, and we put it in the next one. That's not what this is about. Buyers, what you have to be looking at is be ready to go, but also understand you're probably going to have some time to negotiate back and forth with the listing agent and the seller because their home is probably going to have been out there for a while. So just keep that in mind. All of that to say, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to go down in the description of the video below. Our website is down there, myfrontrangeliving.com. Our contact information is down there. We're happy to help you out any way that we can and help you get a better understanding of how the Colorado Springs market can work for you. Hey, as always, thanks so much for stopping by. We look forward to seeing you soon.